What?
Welcome. Tonight we're talking about, are you dreaming or is it reality? Dreaming versus reality. This speech is to inform the audience about what philosophers and physicists have thought throughout time on the subject of dreaming versus reality. The objectives are that at the end of the speech, the audience will know what these philosophers think about reality, or physicists, and they will also know my opinion on, do I think we're living in the matrix or not reality. Does this question sound crazy to y'all? I thought so too, but I'm taking a philosophy class, and the more I got into this, there's a lot of discussion on reality, and are you dreaming, are we living in a matrix, or is but anyway, a lot of philosophers have discussed this through the years. Close your eyes for a minute and think about the most vivid dream you've ever had. And as you were waking up, did it seem like you thought, am I really dreaming? Is it real? But people through the years have talked about this, Plato, Aristotle, Descartes, and also Nick Bostrom. He is a philosopher that lives now. He's a present-day philosopher. And also Zohar Ringel and Dmitry Kavrinsky recently did an experiment to prove or not prove that we were living in the matrix. Plato was the first philosopher. He talked about reality and what he thought about reality. He thought of being and becoming. He thought everybody thought of what reality was to him or her, and he did feel like there was reality. Now this slide shows being and becoming. Being is objective. It's like this perfect thing that's in your head. And then becoming is out there in the world. It's not so perfect, but you can look through the words and they can kind of tell you. Anyway, this was from Questions That Matter, Miller and Jensen, and the other slides were too. Aristotle was the student of Plato, but he relentlessly thought that Plato was wrong and ruthlessly criticized him, saying, there's no in-between world, it's just real, it's out there. Then we've discussed Plato and Aristotle, and they knew reality, and now we're going to discuss Descartes. And he was a mathematician, a scientist. He lived 1596 to 1650, modern philosopher. He was considered the father of modern philosophy. And one of his works was Meditations on the First Philosophy, and we'll discuss that, was 3. So Descartes closes his eyes, he shuts out all his senses, because they're not reliable. And he thinks, you can't really tell if you're dreaming or if it's real. That he thinks there's an evil genius trying to manipulate his ideas. And ultimately he concludes, no, it's not. It's just a perfect being, and that's why we have reality, and that's God. And no one's trying to trick us. And here, Nick Bostrom was the one, the present day of 2003. He was born in 73. He's a present day philosopher from Oxford. And he wrote a paper, Are You Living in a Computer Simulation? But in 2003, he said we could develop a mind and make it conscious. And for now, I don't know of anything like that, but he ultimately concluded that we were not there, or were we? So, recent discovery, Zohar Ringel and Dmitry Kavrinsky discovered it was impossible to create a simulation. And they did a paper in Science Advance, but they were studying on magnetic fields with quantum Monte Carlo, which is a random way to study quantum physics. And by using quantum math, they figured out it was impossible to create a computer simulation. And this was a paper written in Science Advance, Ringel and Kavrinsky. So Masterson is the editor of Cosmos, and he kind of broke it down to tell you what those papers really meant, because they're very heavy on math. But it would take all the atoms in the universe to store just the information to create a program that we could be living in the matrix. So are we living in the matrix? And all these pictures are from PowerPoint. I didn't steal anything. My conclusion is we've talked about the philosophers Plato and Aristotle, who believed in reality. And we talked about philosophers and physicists that question reality, with Descartes, the present day Bostrom, all have a common thread. They ultimately decided that we weren't there yet. We weren't living in a computer. There was no evil genius trying to manipulate our thoughts. I hope I've provided sufficient evidence, and I believe we are not living in the matrix. I believe we are in reality. So sweet dreams. Thank you for coming. And also here on the last slide are the works cited and the papers, if you would like to look at them. Some of them are very detailed in math, if you like math. And thank you for coming. Can you show my audience my son? Thank you so much.